Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll learn a few ways to edit vector layers and craft a skills list to showcase our areas of expertise. We'll start by creating some custom shapes, which we'll then combine with text layers and an auto layout frame. Finally, we'll add the skills list to a container frame and turn it into a main component. Let's get started. Figma Design is a vector-based design tool that can be used to create scalable assets like icons, illustrations, and user interface elements. But what are vectors exactly? Well, vectors are digital images that consist of points, lines, and curves, all defined by mathematical formulas. Unlike raster images, such as digital photographs, vectors can be resized infinitely without losing quality, making them perfect for designs that need to adapt to various sizes. We'll use vector layers to create the custom shapes for our skills list. Unique touches like this are a great way to leave a lasting impression on visitors to your portfolio. We'll guide you through 5 example shapes, but feel free to experiment here. Let's kick things off by adding a 48 by 48 frame to the canvas. Rename the frame to Shape 1. Then duplicate it 4 times. Because we're duplicating an object with a number in the name, Figma will automatically name the new frames Shape 2, Shape 3, and so on. The first shape we're going to build consists of 3 rectangles with rounded corners. Inside the Shape 1 frame, add a 16 by 46 rectangle and center it inside the frame. To achieve the pill look we're going for, we'll round the rectangle's corners. Because a rectangle is so small, changing the corner radius to 24 is enough to fully round the corners. If the rectangle were larger, we'd need to use a greater corner radius to achieve the same look. Duplicate the rectangle and change the new layer's dimensions to 15 by 29. Drag it to the left of the original and align the bottoms of both layers. With the smaller rectangle still selected, click and drag your cursor while holding the modifier key to duplicate it. Drag the new layer to the right of the original, aligning the tops of both layers. The edges of all 3 shapes should be touching. Even though the shape looks like a single object, it's made up of 3 separate layers, each with their own properties. This means we can't apply changes like updating the fill without selecting each layer. And if we added a stroke, it would outline each layer individually instead of the shape's outer path. To treat the shapes as a single object, we'll merge the layers using the union boolean operation. Hold Shift and select all 3 layers. Then choose Union Selection from the Boolean Operations menu. Take a look at the Layer section. The 3 rectangle layers are now nested under a new Boolean group called Union, and we can now change the fill of the entire shape. To keep our shapes organized once we turn them into main components, we'll give each of them a descriptive name. Let's call this first shape Inchworm. Boolean operations let you combine multiple layers into a single object with shared properties, called a Boolean group. You can use Boolean operations to create icons, logos, illustrations, and much more. You can apply Boolean operations to shape layers, vector paths, and text layers. You can't apply Boolean operations to container elements like sections or frames. To apply a Boolean operation, select at least 2 supported layer types, then choose an operation from the Boolean Operations menu. There are 4 different Boolean operations, and it can be helpful to organize them into 2 groups of opposites: union and subtract, and intersect and exclude. Union combines the selected layers. If the layers overlap, the new object's outer path is created by merging the outer edges of all the layers. This means that any strokes or effects you add will only be applied to the object's outer path. The opposite of union is subtract, which removes the area of a layer from the layer below it. Similar to using a cookie cutter, layers at the top of the layer hierarchy cut out the area where they overlap with the layer at the bottom of the current selection. If the resulting object has both an inner and outer edge, any strokes or effects you apply will appear along both edges. Next is intersect, which creates a new object from where the original layers overlap. Anything outside the overlapping area is removed, leaving just the areas where all layers intersect. If you apply intersect to non-overlapping layers, the layers will disappear from view on the canvas until you move them to where they can overlap. The opposite of intersect is exclude, which removes the overlapping area, keeping just the non-overlapping parts. Similar to subtract, any strokes or effects you add will appear on the inner and outer edges of the new object. Boolean operations are non-destructive actions, which means you can still select, move, and resize the original layers. This flexibility allows you to keep iterating on designs without having to ungroup the layers or start over from scratch. Because layers in a Boolean group share a single set of properties, changes made to the properties of an individual layer will have no effect until it's removed from the group. To break up a Boolean group and revert the layers back to individual objects, right-click on the group and select Ungroup. Moving on, here's the second shape we're going to build. Can you guess how it was made? If you guessed using the subtract Boolean operation, you're right. Inside the Shape 2 frame, create a 38 by 38 rectangle and place a 16 by 16 ellipse on top of it. Align the centers of both shapes, then use subtract selection to merge them into a new Boolean group. The Boolean operation cut the area of the ellipse out of the rectangle, meaning that any layers placed behind the rectangle will show through the hole we just created. Because Boolean operations are non-destructive, we can still modify the ellipse layer to adjust the size and placement of the cutout. To complete the second shape, select the subtract layer and rotate it 45 degrees using the handle on the canvas or the rotation field in the right sidebar. If you're using the handle, you can hold Shift to rotate the layer in 15-degree intervals. Finally, we'll change the corner radius to 13 to round the corners. Looks great! We'll wrap things up here by renaming the frame to Diamond. For this next shape, we're going to kick it up a notch by combining duplicated layers using the union operation and removing the center area with the subtract operation. Inside the Shape 3 frame, add a 12 by 46 rectangle to the center of the frame and set its corner radius to 13. Remember how we learned that duplicating layers can be used to create rotating patterns? Let's do that here. Duplicate the rectangle and rotate the new layer 45 degrees. With the duplicated layer still selected, duplicate it twice more using the shortcut. Notice how Figma applies the same rotation automatically. Now select all 4 layers and use Union Selection to merge them into a flower shape. Next, add a 12 by 12 ellipse to the center of the flower. Then select it along with the union boolean group. Just like we did with the diamond shape, we'll use subtract to punch a hole through the center of the flower. How satisfying! Flower is a pretty apt name for this shape, so we'll rename this frame to flower. Let's set Boolean operations aside and check out some other tools you can use to create custom shapes. We've only just scratched the surface, but hopefully you're starting to see just how flexible and powerful Boolean operations can be in your design workflow. If you're looking for more practice, we've included some additional shapes and icons in the Figma Design for Beginners community file. Try recreating them using what you've just learned. The more you experiment, the more intuitive Boolean operations will become.